Hey everyone, welcome back to the Coach's Corner here on the NAIA Volley Report. I'm your host, Daniel Mesquita. Today we're joined by head coach Jake Ostema of the Olivet Nazarene Tigers. Coach, thanks for joining me today. How are you doing and how are things out there in Illinois?
Yeah, Danny, thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's going good out here in Illinois. We're back into it. We're getting rolling. Had a nice little break over Christmas, which was well needed, but we're back on the ground running now, and we're looking forward to it.
For sure, a little recharge before that spring season hits, Coach.
Yep.
Let's talk about your journey being the head coach. You took over this program during a transition period, and you've led it through multiple competitive years. What have you learned about leading a program when you're building momentum year by year?
Yeah, I think as we progressed through that first season, especially, was so crazy. It was a wild ride. I was hired in July. The girls moved in 2 weeks later. So here I am, interim head coach in my first head coaching position, figuring it out on the fly. I had 1 year under my belt as a GA, and obviously, some other coaching experience besides that, and some good experience as a player as well. But man, I think the biggest thing that I've learned, especially in that first season, the connection to the players is just so important. There's not really a way that you can quantify that, but you can feel when it's right and you can feel when it's not. And I think the players value that. I've always wanted to build a team that gets excited to play and wants to play for a head coach that believes in them, and they can feel that. And I feel like that feeling is mutual then for me to the players as well. So yeah, that's been a huge thing in the building process. Obviously, getting the right type of kids, the right fit for the culture, for the program, and the faith aspect. But yeah, more importantly, I think that connection is a two-way street. So
You talk about building relationships and stuff like that in your coaching, how you change. But obviously, your coaching style is going to change from year one to the end of your career. But what has changed the most from that first season to now?
yeah, that's a good one. I think, initially when I took over the program in the recruiting aspect, especially, I kind of felt like I could take a square peg and put it into a round hole, of like, oh, we can get this player in as long as she's pretty talented, we'll be able to get her to what we want her to be for our program in 2, 3, 4 years. Um, and I think that's to a certain extent, there's some molding and some shaving of pieces that can be done, right? But at the end of the day, like that kid is going to be who that kid is. There's 18 years of life before college that they bring in with them. And so I've taken some of my naivete and put that aside in recruiting those kids. Obviously, in the technical development and that kind of stuff, there's a lot of work that we can do there, but who they are when they come to us is largely going to be the same as when they leave. Not completely, right? And we want to change for some of them what that looks like. We want to be able to create a great future for them too. But I think at the end of the day, yeah, the biggest thing that I've seen has really come from that. We want to just go ahead and recruit the right type of player here from the get-go, from day one. And that's been huge then for the growth that they can experience while they're here.
No doubt. And in 2023, you guys went 12 and 15. You guys went 8 and 6 in the Chicagoland, earning a trip to the conference semis. This last season, you guys went 11 and 22, and even 9 and 9 in conference. When you reflect on those seasons, what do those numbers not fully capture about those seasons?
Yeah, I think this year our overall record doesn't show our strength of schedule. We played really tough non-con teams. It's always an approach that I've taken. So I think our overall records, kind of show that, especially this year more so. Obviously, my first year stepping in the scheduling was already done, so we just played who was on the schedule. We made the most of it for that year. But having a little bit more freedom, obviously, to go ahead and schedule those non-con games. We wanted to play tough competition, and going back to getting the right type of kids here too. Like we told them from day one, and even in the recruiting process, like, hey, we play a tough schedule. We don't play a cakewalk schedule and non-con. I don't boost my record like that just so that when we get to conference now, it looks like we're better than we really are. We're going to go play really tough teams, and then hopefully the opposite happens when we get to conference. We feel really prepared for that. Maybe we take our bruises early on, but I think the expectation for especially our team this year was set on like this is going to be really tough. If we pick up a couple of these teams, that'd be awesome. And the group responded really, really well to that too. So yeah, that I think is a little bit of the story. Like obviously, yeah, it does show some of the story of We're not where we want to be quite yet, which is cool. It gives us some opportunity for growth, right? But it also, I don't think it shows the overall strength of schedule and some of those more intricate details.
Yeah, you played a lot of powerhouse schools in those non-conference games. Looking back at your schedule, coach, but obviously you had a long year. What were the biggest areas of growth that you saw with the Tigers, and you were kind of just like, yeah, they're kind of clicking together right now.
Yeah, there was a lot. So we had a small roster this year. So moving some positions around, right, for players that are good at maybe more than one thing, which is good. We had four freshmen getting solid minutes for us this year, and we finished in the same spot in conference as we did last year when we had nine seniors on our squad. So to graduate nine seniors last year, move into this past year, and have four freshmen on the floor and finish in the same spot, I think that says a lot about our team and what we did. I think going back to one of your earlier questions on like where's your coaching style changed, I really try to just see like a little bit. I think if you can see a little bit as a coach, you can see a lot, right? And so I try to get our players to do the same type of thing. Just see a little bit today. Let's get a little bit better. We don't need to fix everything in one practice. It's never going to happen that way. But if we can see one little thing, we can fix one little thing today, we'll get better. And our team really, they really prided themselves on that. They really got better on that daily basis. And that was huge for us, for sure. So to have four freshmen there, to have two really good captain leaders who are both juniors on this squad. By the way, we had no seniors, so we're returning everybody next year, which is sweet. We had one outside who got ABCA All-American honorable mention this year. Last year, she wasn't even a consistent starter for us. So I think on the individual side, the growth that we saw, but more importantly, that contributed to team growth, right? It wasn't for like this, personal gain or want to be a stand-up player. It was like, no, I want to do better because if I do better, then I know my team does better. And when the team does better, that's what we care about.
Yeah, you guys talk about being 1% better, and I love that. That's one thing that I've grown up on, and a lot of coaches I have met talk about, and I think that's just a great philosophy to go by, coach. But the CCAC is, it's a conference for, you got to have little margin of error. What does it take for a program to stay competitive night in and night out? And what are some tips and tricks that you use to make sure that they stay competitive every night?
Yeah, we've got some great coaches in our conference. We've got some coaches that have been doing this for a little while. They know what they're doing, right? And so I think that the one of the things that we try to teach our team is like, hey, the adaptability of if we go in, we win a first set. That's not good enough. Like the game is definitely not over. These coaches know how to coach. The players are going to go play, right? And for a lot of our players, especially this year with having so many freshmen starting for us, they go from this mentality of club, which is like, oh, if we play good, we'll win. If we're not winning, we just need to play better, right? Um, it's like, no, that's not how it works. You need to play good, and then you also need to be able to adapt and adjust and change as the match goes on, right? These teams are going to exploit your weaknesses maybe right away before that first set even finishes. I like to run efficient timeouts, right? So that if we're in a position where we are chasing a couple points late in the first set, we can make a push and we can finish. Um, and that was one hurdle that we had to get over early on in the season, right? Of we come out super strong, we take a first set from a team, right? And our team thinks, oh, we're doing good. We just got to keep doing what we're doing. But we really worked towards, hey, let's stay on the leading edge of this, right? Let's expect that they're going to adjust. Let's make a counter adjustment before maybe they even get that far. To stay on that front edge of those matches. That was one area that we struggled with early on. I think we got a lot better at that. I think most of that though came down to our team realizing like, hey, that old high school or club mentality of just play better when you're losing, it
Mhm.
doesn't work here. It doesn't work here. So, yeah, that I say for sure is one of the big things there.
For sure, everybody's growing day by day, especially at the collegiate level, coach. As you've been at the helm for a few years now, under your leadership, what do you want Olivet volleyball to be known for?
Yeah, I want to be successful. We talked a lot about what we want to do for our team. I have meetings with my players at the very end of the year. And we talked about like we want to be playing in December next year. Like that's a goal for us. So that doesn't mean necessarily, oh, we want to win a national championship. And like, yeah, if we win a national championship, that means we're playing in December. So like, nice, good work. But we want to be playing in December. We want to be practicing daily in December. We want to be having matches scheduled in December. That's going to be a lot of what we talk about, right? From our first weightlifting session, which is next Monday, all the way through until we're playing in December, right? And so, yeah, I want to be known for that, like a successful program, obviously. There's a lot more though beyond that, that we want to be known for. I want to build a culture of a team that's really close knit, where people who aren't on our team, either walking around campus or people that see our team, are like, "Hey, I know they're on the volleyball team because they're really close. They spend a lot of time together, whatever that looks like. You know what I mean?" And so I think that's something that we're really big on, that close knit part of our group and of our culture. It makes the recruiting a whole lot easier for me, when we have that to go back on. And we talk every single day in practice. It's on the top of the whiteboard. It's probably staying down there because it hasn't been erased. But we talk about our effort, our attitude, and our focus. Right. Those are huge components for us. We're going to keep those going into next year. I'm not huge on like the cliche phrases or words, but I think those three embody a lot of what we want to do. And you can break those down, obviously, even more so. But big three that we're focused on going forward are going to be those.
And those three words that you talked about, effort, attitude, and what was the other one? I'm sorry.
And focus. Yep,
And
those
focus.
three.
Yep. You talk about those three words. Is that something that you look for when you're recruiting athletes? Is that something you're intentional, or is that something that you try to develop once they get on campus?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things they got to have, right? Like, okay, you got to be focused. If you're not focused on the task at hand, like we tell our players, just be where your feet are. If I think volleyball is a great escape, right? Like as a player, I kind of used it as a way to get away from class and get away from life and stuff like that. You come into practice for 2 hours, you can kind of leave all that stuff in the locker room and step out there and have a couple of hours to yourself and do something that you enjoy. And that's big, right? That's a huge thing for us. But yeah, I think that's something that we look for in the recruiting for sure. That's something that you find out sometimes through parents more so than the kid, right? Like the kids are going to tell you, "Oh yeah, I can be focused, coach. Yeah, I can give you a lot of energy and effort." And they'll tell you what you want to hear. But I really try to initially, at least in the recruiting process, talk to the parents like, "Hey, what did you raise your kids to be like? What's important for you at your house?
Mm.
When did you make them do their homework?" Like those little things, right? Those standards that are set by the parents, like I said, for 18 years, we just inherit that as a team. And so if the parents are on board with what I'm doing, like I'm kind of an extension of their family, right? And of the leadership of their student athlete and of their kid. And so if I can do a good job of being that for them and letting the parents know, like, "Hey, this is what your kid's going to sign up for. If you don't care what time they wake up and if they make their bed in the morning or not, or like when they do their homework and what kind of grades they have, if you don't care about that, like this is probably not the best program for them. They can be a stud player, right? But they're not gonna do well here." And so yeah, I think that the effort, the attitude, the focus, huge components. There's other things that we look for there too, and I like to try to source some of that information from, yes, the parents, from the club coaches, from the high school coaches, from teachers, from people they're close with. So yeah, definitely.
No, that's some good insight, coach. And let's talk a little bit about player development. You've coached and also played. I know you played at the NAIA level as well. You've seen all aspects of a program from the graduate assistant to the interim role to an athlete as well. How has that full picture experience helped you develop your players?
Yeah. So cool story. I don't know if you know this. I don't know that many people know this. I actually took my fifth year at Olivet. So I got to Olivet in 24. I had my COVID year. And so I coached the women's team in the fall. And I played on the men's team in the spring.
Oh,
So our locker rooms are on the other side of the gym. And then we got the offices down here. My GA office is like three doors down. Now I'm here. They moved me closer to the athletic director when I took the interim position. And I think that's just because he wanted to keep a close eye on me.
yeah.
But I've got experience on both sides of the gym, right? I use that when I recruit. I use that when I talk to my players. I don't like to really bank on, "Hey, this is what I did as a player," though. I'm 6'8", so one of the things that Brenda Williams, who was the former head coach here, absolutely fantastic individual. A lot of people across the NAIA know her, and just in the collegiate volleyball scene know her. She came in to help out a lot with practices that first year, and one of the things that she told me on, I think it was like day one, she was like, "Hey, if you demonstrate how to do footwork for a kid, like your stride is twice the length of theirs." She's like, "You can't do that." I
Yeah.
was like, "Yeah, I didn't even think about that, right?" She's like, "You can get from the 10-foot line to the net in 2 steps." And
Mm.
these poor kids are like running after you trying to do the same thing. So Um, I like to talk about more of like the cultural lessons that I learned as a player, right? Not necessarily the performance aspect. I had a fun ride in that, but I think some of the things I learned as an individual, as far as the team culture and chemistry go with those teams I played on, is really important, right? And then working all the way up through what it takes to be a good GA, right? What it takes to be a good assistant coach, what it takes to be an interim coach and work through, bringing players in that I haven't even met, international players that are going to be here in 2 weeks, and I'm sitting here at my desk for the first time in the head coaching position. Just crazy stuff like that that I look back on, and yeah, maybe in the moment I was like, this is not an ideal situation, but I wouldn't trade those experiences for anything.
Yeah, and those experiences are something that helps you grow and be a better coach year in and year out, coach. But at Olivet Nazarene, faith is a big mission, a part of the Tigers' overall statuesque of Olivet Nazarene. How do you integrate, that into your culture and making sure it feels authentic and empowering towards your athletes?
Yeah, for sure. So that was one of the big reasons I wanted to be at Olivet in the first place. I played at Trinity Christian College, so my faith has always been an important part of my life, right? And so I want to extend that to our players as well. Um, I don't require that our players be Christians when I recruit them, right? One of my big things I tell these players though is, hey, we want to get a solid core of Christian-based individuals that come from that environment to bring into our team, right? And if we have that, we can plug in these other pieces. Only because I've seen some really awesome stories come out of players that come in with no faith background. They join a team that is centered on the things of God, and then they turn around and they leave here with a really awesome experience, whether that's coming to know a little bit more about their faith, whether that's making a personal profession for Christ, and everything in between, right? We want to expose some of those kids to what living this way looks like, just because I think it's really impactful. The other thing, too, that I think is really, really awesome about this, and one of the things I always struggled with as a player and as a coach is like, how do we be competitive and also be Christian, right? I think sometimes there's like a fighting between those, and I don't know why that is, but it's almost like this stigma that Christians shouldn't be competitive, and I don't like that. I don't think that's true. I think like we're called as Christians to be competitive in the things of the Lord, and so there's a right way to compete, right? And it's outlined in the Bible. It's outlined in we do in preseason. We'll do devotional every single morning before we start training, right? Like hey, it's a priority. We're going to eat some food and we're going to go do our devotional before we do any training, any lifting, any film for the day. Um, and so those things, right, I think are important for us. We invite every single team that we play to pray with us at the end of the match. I think that's an awesome experience too. I know a lot of teams do that. It's something that I think being in the NAIA is just an awesome experience for that. There's so many schools that do that. It's really encouraging when a coach actually comes up to me first and says, "Hey, will you pray with us?" I love to see that kind of stuff, and I think our players do too. And it's a good experience for our players that have a solid faith background to continue to grow more deeply in that, to pray in those huddles and do that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, what a great message, coach. And you talk about bringing in those athletes that you don't require to be Christian, and just leaving all of it with that faith as they develop on, coach. But when you're out on that recruiting trail, what traits are you looking for? What stands out to you, and what are some non-negotiables that you have?
Yeah, okay, so there's a few, and these are like kind of weird things, but they hint at a more like overall bigger topic. So, just a couple of random ones, like if kid gives their backpack to a parent when they leave the gym, and their parent has their bag when they walk out, like that's a big red flag. That's a big red flag for me. Um, the eye contact for the coaches, like if coach is explaining something and I'm watching the interaction and the kid's got, her eyes down on the floor or whatever. I don't like that. In warm-ups, like how seriously they take warm-ups, even at the 8 a.m., like, okay, yeah, that's important what you do there for sure. We play early matches too. And are you going to slack off in warm-ups just because we're playing the early game that day? I don't really want that type of player here. I know there's coaches that don't like to watch warm-ups, and I've heard the reasons why. I think they're great reasons, but for the type of program that we want to build, I think that's one of the things that's important for us. I want kids that are coachable, right? I want kids that are going to learn. I don't necessarily say that, yeah, we want to recruit a talented individual that's going to come in, right? But I prioritize long-term development, which is somewhere I feel like the NCAA is maybe getting away from, especially in like the Power Four with
Hmm.
transfer portal and stuff. I know people debate me on that, but I feel like it's becoming a very transactional 1 year move on, 1 year move on. Maybe that's great for the kids, maybe not. I don't know. It's got its good and bad. I don't know where I stand on it still. It's very individual. But what I do know here is in the NAIA, a lot more kids are staying for 4 years, right? Maybe five. We're going to find out soon. But they're staying, right? And so long-term player development is key for me. And so to be able to get to a point where we've got kids that come in as a freshman, they develop a whole lot. Maybe by their sophomore year, they're getting good minutes. And by their junior and senior year, they're having a big impact on our team. That's big for me. That's what I want to see. But again, we need kids that are going to be coachable from day one. They can't decide, oh, junior year now it's time to get serious about this. Like I've only got 2 years left, so I better listen to what coach is going to tell me. No, somebody's already passed you. Like somebody's passed you already. You had your chance 2 years ago. So I don't bring in a ton of transfer players. I do bring in a few that I feel like are going to be good fits for us. But I prioritize let's bring in freshman players who are going to be coachable, are going to be gritty, and they're going to be competitive, right? If they can be those couple of things for us, come in with that effort, attitude, focus, like we talked about, that's a good starting point for me, and I can work a whole lot with that. And I think the team that we're building wants to work with that too. I tell a lot of our players, like, hey, mediocrity hates hard work, and hard work hates mediocrity. Those two things clash. So we can all either be mediocre and we'll be okay, we'll get along great. But I don't want to do that, obviously. I want to be the hardworking team that's going to get here and get after it every single day. And I think our team will come to respect that as well.
And I know a couple of times during this interview we've talked about, where Olivet volleyball is going, the next chapter. But what most excites you about what's upcoming for Olivet, and where do you feel like this program is going?
Yeah, I want to build this program to be huge. I want to take this to a new level. I think we have the support here. We have the facilities for sure. Our campus is beautiful. It's awesome. I have the resources to be able to do this now, and some of this is just the time that it takes, right, to go from where we were when I was a GA of ninth in conference to moving up to where we're going to be. And so I think, for me, we want to continue to see our attendance increase at our normal games during the season. We got our tournament coming up in the first week of season, our opening weekend tournament. I'm looking forward to doing that again. We're going to have a couple extra teams at that. This coming year, it was a big success last year. We had a lot of positive feedback on that. So just to make the purple and gold a little bit more staple in the volleyball world, and I think it's time to do that. There was a time where that was the case here. It dropped off a little bit, but I feel it's my mission right now to reinstate that where it was, to build some support and some hype behind this, and what we're trying to do here, from the kids that we bring in, to the parents that they have, to the students that see us practicing and go like, man, I want to come to their game tomorrow just because I see what they're doing, and it looks cool, it looks awesome. So yeah, all of that I'm really looking forward to. I think next year is going to be a good year for us. We've got a big incoming freshman class, I think, that have the potential to make an impact right away. Obviously we'll see if that pans out. It's always a question mark, right?
Mhm.
But the makings are there for next season to be a good season for us. And so I'm looking forward to that for sure. I'm looking forward to getting back in the gym with the kids right away this coming spring too, because we've got a good, hard working group that I think is going to get a lot done.
Well, I can't wait to see it. I know you said you got a big incoming class, but you also have everybody coming back, so that's going to be a lot of
Yeah,
competition in the gym, and I can't wait to see it, Coach. Um,
yeah.
but for those on the outside looking in, what do you want them to know about Olivet Nazarene, and why they should put this university on their radar?
Yeah, I think we're fun. We're a fun team to watch. I want to be that team that, I don't know, gets excited about stuff. Like, this is not, all respect, all due respect. This is not golf. Like, we can get excited. We have a lot of fun. The number of times that the girls would clip volumetrics videos of me running up and down the bench and celebrating, and some of the celebrations we have on the bench and on the court, just fun stuff like that, right? Like, at the end of the day, it's a game, right? And you should be able to have fun. Yes, we want to be successful. We want to compete at a high level. But if you don't enjoy the process of when you're getting there, what's it all for? like the process component is huge. And so I want our fans and the people who are watching us to, number one, feel like they're a part of our story. That's something that going into this new year, I'm going to try and be really intentional about is telling a story of our program, not just, hey, we have a match today, but what is the story behind this match? Why is this our conference rival? What happened the last couple of times we played them? Telling a story about our players too. Our players have awesome stories. They come from so many different backgrounds. This team, if you knew every single one of their backgrounds, it's like we pulled from every category possible, just like plucked here, here, here. And if you brought them all together, you'd be like, just knowing their backgrounds, this would never work. This is crazy. But when they get on the court, something crazy, awesome happens. And that's what I'm excited about. But I want people to be able to kind of share in that experience, right? I don't want that to be a closed in thing to just our team, just our group. I want to be able to share those experiences and kind of tell our story a little bit more as we progress into this new year, especially. That's kind of a big one for us.
Coach, I love to hear it. And there's a lot of people that tune in, and for those young coaches that are assistants or GAs or fellow athletes looking in to get into where you're at, what is a piece of advice that you would give to those young coaches that want to be head coaches or wanted to get into coaching?
Mm. Um, Learn as much as you possibly can from everything possible, but don't take it as the ultimate truth. In my coaching career initially, I found a lot of great resources. But I initially thought like, oh, it's so and so that's giving this, coaching or whatever, so it must be true. And the reality is that it's probably true for their team, but it might not be true for yours. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. So learn it because you might need it someday, but that day might not be today. And so I have had the privilege of, learning a whole lot. That's been a big thing for me in my first couple of years here. Is just to learn, gather as much information, but be selective with what you teach to your players, right? Figure out what's going to work and why it will work and what doesn't work and why it doesn't work. But learn a whole lot. I think that's, the big thing at the end of the day, especially if you're an assistant or a GA, especially like learn. The other thing too that I'll say, so my GA position was supposed to be a 2-year position. I found myself in the right place at the right time, but I don't like to bank on that either. Like, I think it undermines some of the work that I did as a GA to be offered the interim position at the time that I was, right? I had opportunities to bail before I was offered the position here, and it was looking scary there for a couple of months. There's no head coach, and I'm the GA that's left here. What's going to happen? I still have another year on my GA contract. Like, this is crazy. But I'm sitting here 3 years later in the head coaching seat, which is pretty cool. And so another piece of advice, if I can, like, I think just don't rush into anything without really weighing the options. Have some tough conversations along the way, but don't rush into anything because you feel like maybe things are going south a little bit. That's something I preach to our players too. Like, sometimes you got to stick it out a little bit. I like to think that I'm a little bit of a walking testimony there, from some of the stuff that the program went through a couple of years ago. And so I would say, yeah, don't rush into anything prematurely. Take some time to think about it. I know it took time to think about it and pray about it. And definitely felt the call was to stay here, even though it was a little scary at times. It did work out. So, a couple of things on that one.
Stay in the course, coach. Stay in the course. But before we go, coach, well, first of all, thanks for joining us. I know you had a busy,
Yeah.
busy week, busy with holidays, traveling, recruiting, all that good stuff. But before we go, where can we find Coach Jake on socials, and where can we find Olivet on social media?
Yeah, so I'm primarily on Instagram. It's at Jake_Ostema. I know you probably link it on here or something too. So, yeah, follow me over on Instagram. I'm gonna try to do better at posting. Last year I posted like some of our training stuff. I know you talked about like the younger coaches thing. I'm trying to help out like the high school and the club coaches, right? If here's some drills that you can do when you've got 8 players. Here's some drills that you can do for all this kind of stuff. So another thing, I guess New Year's resolution, besides telling the story of our team, I want to post a little bit more on that kind of stuff. and just get the message out there of like, hey, this is good coaching. But again, to take it worth what it is for your team. Like this might not work for you guys. You might think it looks like a great drill, but it might not work for your team. So yeah, that. And then I'm starting a Substack. I have a couple of posts on there. It's a blog platform, just to post, every couple of weeks of kind of what we're doing, what our training progress looks like, and some of that kind of stuff. So I'd have to get my Substack handle, but if you look up Jake Ostema on Substack, you'd be able to find it there. So those are primarily the two places that I live, but I try to get back to DMs and everything on Instagram too. So love to chat it up on anything volleyball related or not. But yeah, that would probably be the best place would be the Instagram.
Coach, thank you so much for joining us today. For those tuning in, make sure you follow the NAIA Volley Report on all social media at NAIA Volley Report on all things Instagram, X, Threads, TikTok, anything you could think of. Coach, thank you again for your time and looking forward for that fall season.
Yeah, Danny, if I can add just one more thing,
Yeah,
shout out to you and what you guys are doing over there at the Volley Report is awesome. I saw some of the stuff early this past year. I was like, man, this could really take off. It's time that we get a little bit more respect put on the NAI volleyball scene,
yep.
and I think you guys are doing a fantastic job of that. So definitely keep that up. We will be following, and for those that aren't following, give this guy a follow. It is awesome to see what they're doing for sure.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate it. We couldn't be here without you guys and putting some
Yep.
good volleyball together. But thank you so much, and we'll stay in touch.
All right, man. We'll see you. Thank you.
Yep.